morning. My name is Blake. I am an internal conflict specialist. I've been doing this a couple years now, helping other people, but more importantly, understanding myself so that I can help other people. So I appreciate everybody coming in today to listen to this short seminar about how to not only manage internal conflict, but understand it as well. It's something that not everybody understands, and I feel like that's important to get across. So first off, what is internal conflict? Now, I feel like Psychology Fanatic, they have a very good understanding of it. They say it's a universal human experience that arises when there is a clash between our thoughts, emotions, or beliefs. And I feel like that's important because internal conflict is between ourselves and our thoughts. It's completely internal, and quite honestly, sometimes there aren't any external factors. It's between ourselves, and that's it. External conflict is between a group of people. Internal conflict is just us. So, I feel like that's important to get across because not everybody can understand it. It's quite honestly, you just don't understand it as well unless you have physically experienced it. So, Raheem, he put out a model. There are 5 conflict management styles that he claims, and I want to focus on the concern for others. So the 2 conflict management styles that I'll be talking to you today, they're going to be the low concern for others. And the reason for that is because with internal conflict, like I mentioned, it's between ourselves, and nobody else. So the concern for others is low because there's nobody else involved in the conflict. So I want to talk to you a little bit about first avoiding conflict. So avoiding conflict, it's not good. It puts on more stress and anxiety, and quite honestly, stress and anxiety not only affects you mentally, but it can affect you physically as well. Now, Harvard Law School, they put out a very good discrepancy of it. I feel like they explain it well. They say problems tend to grow larger, misunderstandings harden into resentment, and important decisions get delayed when using the avoiding conflict management style. So a lot of times, internally and mentally, our brains protect us from things that harm us. If they either harm us or they just aren't beneficial to us. So I feel like that's important because avoiding conflict is a way to not attack it. It just put it off, procrastinate on it, and honestly just not even think about it. So, that was something that I personally did at first, and then I quickly realized I've got to do something about it. So, dominating conflict. This is how I learned how to take back control of what controlled me. Sometimes, especially mentally, the mental win, just a moral victory, can be just as important, if not more, than a physical victory. And I feel like that is very important because, sometimes that's all you've got. And quite honestly, with an internal conflict not involving anybody else, there is no physical victory, especially with internal conflict being so mental or mentally, insinuated. That moral victory is what you're striving for. You want to focus on yourself. And again, Harvard Law School, they say the dominant negotiator clearly stated preferences, and that is something that we'll get into in that handout that was in front of you when you all sat down this morning. We'll get into that in a little bit, but the preferences are what's important here. And the reason for that is because you have preferences and you've got to find a way to overcome those without avoiding them. So that's that dominating factor. The importance of managing internal conflict. It's important because, like I mentioned, you want to win that internal battle. Relieve stress and anxiety, and quite honestly, it boosts confidence. And for me, when I figured out how to win some of these battles, gave me that confidence of, well, if anything comes up, then I can tackle it. You know, it felt like it gave me that understanding of, well, if there's anything out there, you know, there's nothing that I can't overcome. So that was important for me, was just figuring out some of those trends to better understand them. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that handout that was in front of you when you sat down this morning. I'll give you a little bit of personal experience and ties, because I came up with this, I used this is how I figured out how to manage my internal conflict. And quite honestly, I've used it for other people as well, and they have said it's helped them. So this is something that I want to go over today, and then you can take this with you and use this outside of this seminar. You know, whenever internal conflict comes up, this is a good way to put everything out there on paper to, you know, figure out and identify those factors. So first off, if you look at step one, identify your conflict. Now for me, I was diagnosed with anxiety 3 years ago. I'm only 21, and quite honestly, my doctor, I was the youngest person he's ever prescribed anxiety medication to. So I was the youngest person he's ever diagnosed, and quite honestly, having a mental health disorder at the ripe age of 18, that was another factor in itself, that was another conflict that I had to manage. So step one, identify your conflict. My conflict was my panic attacks when they came up. My very first panic attack, I passed out. And I was at an Atlanta Hawks game with my father. That, you know, we enjoy going to Hawks, Braves, Falcons games. We're diehard Atlanta sports fans, and quite honestly, they have become a part of my life. And without them, I don't know what I would do. But, you know, it was a very tough conflict to manage, and the reason for that is because I passed out at a game. And it was just that factor of, I was there, and that location was where I had a panic attack. So going back to that location, I was hesitant. And it was a conflict for me because my body wanted to go. I physically wanted to go back and be there, but my brain, mentally, I couldn't. I didn't want to. So step one, identify your conflict. That was my conflict, was just large gatherings, or, you know, being in Atlanta. So step two, the two sides. What one part of you wants? One part of me was that physical side. It wanted to be there. Side B, what another part of you wants. Another side of me was the mental side. It didn't want to be there. So step three, thoughts and emotions. You know, side A didn't want to be there. My thoughts and feelings were, I might have another panic attack. I didn't know how to manage this internal conflict. Physically, side B, my thoughts and feelings, I never want to leave. I don't want to take that part out of my life. I want to be able to go watch the games in person, cheer on my team, be a part of the atmosphere and things of that nature. You know, spend time with my father, because that's part, you know, that's how we bond, and, you know, make memories. Step four, what's driving this conflict? You've got fear, pressure from others, past experiences, self-doubt, expectations, and others. And quite honestly, there were three for me personally in that experience: fear, past experiences, and self-doubt. Because mentally, that self-doubt, I didn't think I could go back and not have a panic attack. That fear was going back to that same place that had traumatized me. And obviously, past experiences are past experiences. But, you know, my body, I wanted to go, and that was the mental side of me was trying to avoid the conflict. Physically, I wanted to dominate it, and that was something that I had to understand. Now, reframing the conflict, what would a neutral, supportive person say to you? They may, you know, you could view it two ways. They may tell you to listen to your brain, listen to your mental side, or they may tell you do what your body, go with your gut. And that was tough as well. Small action step, what is one small realistic step you can take to reduce this conflict? And quite honestly for me, that was trusting my gut. That was dominating that conflict. It was going back. This is 3 years ago. I have no issue at all going back. I am still an Atlanta Hawks season ticket holder. I've been to a couple Falcons games, and me and my Braves are Braves season ticket holders. And quite honestly, this Saturday I'm going to the playoff game for the Hawks versus Knicks. So that was, dominating that conflict, was trusting my gut, wanting to attack it. So, I hope you can take this with you. I've had that personal connection. I've understood it at such a young age. It's something that I take pride in. So I appreciate you guys sitting down, listening to this short seminar with me. It was a pleasure getting to speak to you and share my thoughts and ideas, because I want to help one person at a time. Quite honestly, the more people that can understand it and that won't be as affected by it, the better. So I appreciate you guys listening to me this morning. I hope you can use this handout and take it with you and see what works for you. So thank you.